Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 23, Another Parasite. Does the young master need anything else? Hazel, who finally started acting like an obedient maid, asked politely after filling Adrian in on Chestnut Technology's current state and financial situation. In fact, she was no longer sitting at the meeting table, but standing politely behind Adrian. This girl was as smart as his father said she was, realizing who her real master was pretty quickly. What is your relationship with Franklin nowadays? He finally asked about his supposed half-brother as he turned to face her. As I said earlier, young Master Franklin was the one who convinced your esteemed father to take me in, so she replied nervously, making things clear. You keep repeating that line like a broken record. Adrian interrupted, carefully watching her expression. Did he take any of the others? I don't know, he just came to me right after I was kicked out and told me to follow him. After letting me crash at his place for one night, he took me to see Master Maverick the next day. She told the truth. Did anything happen that night? No, I remember that I slept very deeply. It was a long day after all, after the elders questioned everyone repeatedly. She said as she tried hard to recall. I don't remember seeing anyone else. Why you, does he like you or something? Adrian asked directly. Our relationship is very professional. In fact, she hesitated. At first I truly thought that he was attracted to me, and, she hesitated again. I may have tried to engage with him romantically a few times, but I was always flatly rejected. She bit her lip and said, showing her sincerity by hiding nothing. Oh, is he gay? Adrian, who eyed her from head to toe, asked. How could a man reject this girl? Not likely, as he dates many models. I don't know why he refused me, she replied nervously. She was quite confident about her looks after all. Oh, Adrian paused. I see, I think I have an idea now how he is manipulating you, Adrian said as he looked at her. Young Master Franklin would never manipulate Hazel paused. Why was she defending him desperately? I see, Adrian smirked. Thankfully the hex I put on you is powerful enough to supersede another influence, or you might not even realize what was happening. Young Master. What? Give me your hand, Adrian said, grabbing her hand before she could move. She didn't resist as he closed his eyes and made his mana invade her body. Spot on, he sighed as he let go. What? A question first, do you hear voices? He asked. Her. Voices. Like someone talking to you when there is no one around. He said. No, she shook her head. No one telling you that you are the chosen of anything like that. He asked again. Not at all. What is it, young master? She asked nervously. Then, when you think about Franklin, do you, he paused, feel something in your womb? She blushed. No, sometimes, she looked down in shame, not daring to like. So it is that type. What? A fourth type control parasite, he said. A fourth what? A parasite, she touched her chest in horror. She heard of such terrifying things before. A parasite that would dig deep into the target's heart, and if he were to betray the one who put it, the target would die a very ugly death. Demonic arts, she uttered. This parasite thing was very common with those who practiced forbidden arts. Yeah, it is in your womb, Adrian said with a deep frown. That's why they only took her, as she was the only one old enough back then to undergo such a procedure without leaving a trace. It is the reason you feel that way toward him. Hazel gasped, realizing what the parasite in that place meant. As for doubting Adrian, this never occurred to her. He didn't have a reason to lie. Did he ask you to sleep with anyone? Adrian asked, not giving her a chance to collect her thoughts. No, not yet anyway, she answered truthfully as sweat dripped from her neck. A parasite in the womb was meant to be transferred to someone else. That's why Franklin never slept with her. Oh, Adrian paused. Was that parasite placed as something against him in case he recovered one day? As Hazel was his maid, it was easy to manipulate her to seduce him and sleep with him one day. But the problem was when they did it. Was it right after the accident? Probably. They were not sure if he really lost his mind back then. This must have been one of their contingency plans. He smirked. Finally, he got a clue about who was behind the accident back then. Franklin. Oh, Franklin, you are on the naughty list now. Young master, what should I do? Hazel asked nervously as he stopped talking and began smirking like some devil. Nothing for now, since it is dormant, we can ignore it, he said, raising his head to look at her. What if they used it to spy on me? She asked. Don't worry, this thing is not connected to your sensory organs, it can only take commands from the one who had the commander parasite, and it can only control you through hormones. Ah, she nodded. She was clearly disturbed by what he told her. Once I get a functioning magical lab, I will be able to remove it without alerting the other party. He said, telling the truth. Oh, I understand, I will make sure that work on the lab will not be delayed. She said quickly. Delayed? Adrian eyed her. Ah, Hazel swallowed. Young Master Franklin, he told me to. Well, to delay the founding of your lab until the end of the year, she said nervously. When did that happen? Adrain asked as he pondered her words. The end of the year. Yes, there was going to be an annual assessment to promote the heirs. It seemed like they wanted to delay him. This definitely had something to do with the power struggle. Someone was still wary of him, but this guy was not high enough in the hierarchy to realize that he had already reached the top. He called yesterday evening right after Lord Maverick informed me of the merger. You see, young Master Franklin was the one who directly controlled Chestnuts in place of your esteemed father all this time, so I usually take commands from him. She answered. I see. Adrian nodded. Franklin's control over Chestnut was not surprising. Maverick, who was the head of the Mage Tower, didn't have much time to take care of many things, so it was perfectly normal to delegate some tasks to his sons. What is Franklin's rank nowadays? Where is he staying? He asked. Ah, last I heard, young master. Stop calling him a young master, just use his first name, Adrian said with annoyance. Ah, yes, Franklin's is at the 5th Circuit, and he lives in the nearby Pickler town managing the few magic crystals mines there. She replied. Oh, what does he usually do here? Adrian asked. He usually just loosely supervises the company's new projects, unless he gets interested in something, like the new magical engine that we have been developing lately. His involvement is very minimal usually, other than a memo or two each month. I rarely hear of him. Oh, I want a copy of all his memos, and a summary of all the projects he is actively monitoring. Adrian said. Keep it a secret. I understand. What else did he ask you to do about me? Adrian asked. Didn't he ask you to get close to me or something? He asked. Ah, not at all, other than delaying you, he wanted me to report everything you do to him. Oh, Adrian frowned. Could it be that they didn't want to activate her yet, or did they have a better use for that parasite? Strange. Just that. He asked again. He also told me to make sure that none of the employees would know your true status. He said that I should tell them that you were just a distant cousin from the Red Oak family and that you used to work in another subsidiary before getting transferred here. This should be my father's intention, Adrian sighed. It was uncommon for a direct heir to reveal his real identity, preferring to take a less prominent role publicly for security reasons. I understand, she replied. Now, since no one ordered you to, why were you acting like a bitch toward me earlier? He asked. At first, he presumed that Franklin was the one who ordered her to do that. Ah, she blushed. I didn't want you to take me back to be your maid, so I tried to be a little distant. I am very sorry. She bowed down. She really believed the stories about how he became a loser and didn't want him to affect her aspiration to be with Franklin. It must be the parasite's effect, she said in a low voice. Ah, yeah, probably. I forgive you, Adrian said, looking at Hazel's nervous pretty face. He could still remember the day he met her back then, how she acted as a big sister to the other kids, reassuring them. She was far kinder than she let off. As long as you remember who is your master, he said. I will never forget again. She replied affirmatively. Do you know what you should do after I leave? He asked her. Other than preparing the reports, I presume, you want me to act as if this conversation never happened, she replied after some hesitation. A smart girl, he smirked. And about what those guys saw earlier, if anyone asked, just lie and say that I forced you by threatening you with my father's power. Quote. Yes, she nodded. Franklin should suspect nothing. I understand, she said as she squeezed her fist. She was clearly feeling betrayed. We will meet again in a week then. If you perform well, I will update your circuits for you, he said as he stood up, and Hazel quickly hurried to fix his jacket for him. Thank you very much. Take care, young master. She bowed politely as she watched him leave the meeting room. As soon as Adrian stepped out, he felt no less than 10 murderous gazes aimed at him. Some were employees, others were prospective managers who caught a glimpse of what was happening inside earlier. He ignored them as he headed to the elevator, where one guy stepped in right after him. He was the guy who intruded on him and Hazel earlier. My name is Jonathan Rommel, the vice president here. May I ask which subsidiary you used to work for? He asked Adrian as he stretched his hand. What made you presume I used to work for some subsidiary? Adrian asked, not taking the man's hand. Oh, that's easy, the CEO's secretary told me that, and that you will be leading a new research lab, but she refused to tell me anything else. Jonathan said, smiling to hide his murderous intent. Oh, Adrian nodded. Well, that's not your fucking business. Adrian said just as the elevator reached the ground floor. And keep what you saw in that meeting room to yourself. He added as he stepped out. Jonathan wanted to curse, but noticing how crowded it was he just decided to hold it as he glared at Adrian's back. Shall we castrate him? Are you getting addicted or something? Let's leave him be for now. Leaving the company, Adrian checked his magical watch, then decided to go search for a new house. The question was where to ask. Shit, he really had no idea where to find a high-end real estate agent. He should have asked his father. Quote. Sighing, he turned and started heading in a certain direction. The black market to buy some demonic monster meat. Thankfully, he knew where that place was.